I'm Jingjie from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Today, I'm very happy to share our work to understand how smartphone users think of and react to privacy issues from their online discussion. We all enjoy and embrace the great convenience of smartphone products like voice assistants or robot vacuums. And when adopting these products, we go through the entire journey of searching for the information, comparing between different products, making the purchase decision, and using the product towards abandonment. And in all these steps of adopting the product, we may encounter security and privacy issues, react to them, and think about them. For example, we may compare between different security features in different products. We may notice privacy issues during our usage. Well, prior work has examined the space of security and privacy of smartphone users from multiple angles, including all the great talks in this session. For example, researchers have investigated what are the concerns brought by the smartphone users. On the other hand, we can also categorize users according to their privacy attitudes, like to what extent they're concerned about privacy. Also, researchers have found that the security and privacy features of products will impact how much willing the smartphone users is going to purchase the product. Well, given all these real dynamics in all the adoption processes, prior work that focus on individual users in control settings or a singular time point in the adoption journey may miss out some dynamics. Here, this motivates our work. In general, we want to understand how do users develop security and privacy considerations and attitudes organically and progressively. Our work makes a methodological contribution and leverage a major online discussion community for smartphone users, that is the Home Automation subreddit channel, which has a very large user base and very active discussion around different topics about smartphone, including security and privacy. Given this large and complicated data, we developed a systematic approach to first identify the discussion that is relevant to security and privacy, and further perform in-depth qualitative content analysis to let emerge our findings. This method allows us to observe and understand how users develop their considerations about security and privacy over time throughout the adoption process. And such methods not intrusive for users when they disclose their considerations and attitudes. Instead of focusing on individual users, we study how this interactive and collective discussion impacts users regarding security and privacy. Many of you may have already used Reddit or heard about it, but just for those who are not familiar with it, this is how Reddit organized their discussion using a structure called thread. In a Reddit discussion thread, one user could post initial comments about a certain topic. In this case, it's their concern about the app privacy. Following this initial comment, there could be multiple users interactively discuss about the topics or contributing their own thoughts, own opinions, like whether they're concerned about it or providing their suggestions. And the same user could also post an update over time. So having this rich data, here are several specific research questions we focus. First is how users think of security and privacy issues, or we call it considerations. And second, building on the top of these considerations, how users react to security and privacy issues. And as an online discussion environment, how such online discussion influence users collectively. We have a very large amount of data in this subreddit channel, and users, they may not follow the same terminology in describing their security and privacy issues. So, we built a natural language processing classifier for this to facilitate the sampling of security and privacy relevant discussion for our later qualitative content analysis of 180 threads with about 5K comments. So given the complicated data, how do we have in-depth insights? We have a team of diverse knowledge domain to drive the qualitative content analysis and perform qualitative coding and thematic analysis. We iteratively review the Reddit comments, come up with code and themes, and converge to a framework to describe our finding. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the major themes and findings emerged from our analysis. The first question is, when users talk about security and privacy, what are the factors that relate them to security and privacy? The first thing is, users care about the product factors of the device itself, like whether it's reliable, whether it has a cloud storage. Well, naturally, they care about the security and privacy features, for example, firewall, authentication methods, or data safety measures. And adoption phases also bother users when they consider security and privacy, for example, in which phase they're adopting products, before use or after purchase. And users refer to auxiliary information about security and privacy, like the news, a privacy policy, or regulation when they talk about it. And they often consider the practices of relevant stakeholders, like smart home companies, or governments, or third parties regarding the security and privacy. Well, users' understanding and requirements differ given the factors. For example, users have a negative sentiment towards the for-profit business model of a smartphone company. However, given the same negative sentiment, some users think it's bad for their privacy and security because they will be irresponsible for the data privacy. Well, the other users think such for-profit business model may instead incentivize the companies to protect the users' privacy. And users' security and privacy options could be constrained by these factors, like in which phase they are adopting the product. In this case, users care about whether they can still refund the product when noticing privacy issues after the purchase. Having these diverse factors, users develop considerations in two major aspects. The first is their security and privacy concerns. The users first become aware of security and privacy concerns and towards assessing the risk of it regarding the consequence and the likelihood. On the other hand, given the concern, users develop protective strategies for themselves and others. They identify a strategy and assess the cost and benefit of it. Users develop these security and privacy concerns and strategies over time. Well, it's not necessarily just a linear process, as the user may reflect on certain considerations and redevelop a new one. Having these two main aspects, we developed a taxonomy that maps users into 5 categories in terms of their security and privacy attitudes. The first category is the user who dismiss a privacy and security concern because of a contextual assessment, or it could also be their general attitudes carried from different domains, even outside of smart home. We also observe that a lot of Reddit users are actively developing their security and privacy concern further by exploring the space and seeking other users' input. And there are a lot of users considering the trade-off in the protective strategies. However, such trade-off may not necessarily lead to a happy ending. There are users that are not happy about the trade-off, but they have to do it because of some other considerations like fatalism. Well, the other users are more positive about the trade-off, though the strategy may not be the best for their security and privacy. And interestingly, in the domain of Reddit, we observe there are a lot of users that are technically competent and devote themselves into protecting security and privacy, even by DIYing privacy and security solutions in terms of hardware and software. Users' attitudes are contextualized and they evolve over time, despite there could be preconception override their contextual and objective assessments. And as an online discussion environment, we observe 3 major patterns that influence users. First, users help each other resolve ambiguity of security and privacy information and understanding, like by supplementing a news. As a result, users may develop a new attitude. For example, in this case, users may develop new strategy by being inspired from the others. And such influence may not be always positive. They face social pressures in this discussion when disclosing their concerns. In this case, users exhibit self-censorship when they're discussing their worry about the privacy and security. Online security and privacy information could be difficult for users to assess and access. And here are some recommendations for us to protect smart home users' security and privacy. First, the products could incorporate users' diverse considerations, for example, by offering different levels of automation regarding their security and privacy options. And we can also support users' attitude development in the long term in real life by providing easy-to-access privacy label in different phases of adoption. And the platform could also provide and improve the access to credible security and privacy information online, like leveraging automated moderators. And here's also interesting research directions for us to investigate further. We can study different users' security and privacy attitudes across different domains, even outside of smart home. There could be intercorrelation. And it's also interesting to see how the user's attitude evolve in a longer time at a community level. In our study, we observed like several years ago, some users think security and privacy issues of the smart home is not a problem because they don't believe that smart home gonna be popular. But nowadays, nobody doubts that. And it's also interesting to find out what's the underlying geopolitical and cultural influences on users' security and privacy attitudes. In our study, we observed a common distrust on Chinese products, and this is potentially related to users' political opinions against the Chinese government. And it's also fun to study how different information presentation impact different users, like parents with children. And I want to thank you for joining my talk and attribute all the great efforts to our collaborators as well. I'm happy to talk online, offline, and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jingjie, and we have a couple of minutes for questions. While folks are formulating, I'd like to kick off with one. So one of the things I really appreciate about your work is that you took this longitudinal approach. And one of the things I was curious about, specifically about Reddit, so they have this reputation system, right, where you can get points for your comments and you can build up this karma over time. And I'm curious whether you think this influences the dynamics of the discussions and whether there's an opportunity to incorporate that.
Yeah, that's one thing we can consider in the future. We do observe the karma system, and people talk about how this karma works in their discussion regarding their views towards others' opinions. These could potentially impact how users take others' advice as well. And it's also related to how the platform moderate the system and discussion. Yes.
And did you observe particular particular kind of trust in specific actors as part of this discussion? Like there were maybe nonprofits or other certifiers or anything like that?
Exactly. If I understand the question correctly, you mean the trust towards the role in the discussion. So there we observe different roles in the discussion. There are normal users, and there are also representatives from the smart home companies. And there are also users that are more experienced and post at different channels. So we see the appreciation for the users who are actively engaged in the discussion across different threads. But we also see doubts towards like the representative of some conflict of interest when they engage in the discussion. Yes.
Thank you. And one more question, and then I will move on.
Can you comment on the attitudes of people in the survey or in the threads of companies collecting their data and misusing it versus someone that's malicious, trying to steal someone's identity, gaining access and using the data?
So you're asking about what are their attitudes towards companies collecting their data. So overall, there are several nuances in this space. Overall, people don't like that. But there are some people, they exhibit fatalism. They're tired of that. So they think they're already giving out privacy in smartphone, in other, even to a government agency. So they just gave out in the smart home domain. And there's other nuances towards, just I say, different manufacturers in different countries or regions, especially towards Chinese products. They're more sensitive towards that, the foreign entities rather than the local entities. Yes.
Thank you, Jingjie, and thank you very much.